What's up, everyone? This is FP Sticks. It has been a long time, but we are back here in the Go Battle League in Great League, running a team with double water in the back. I've really been enjoying using Gligar in the lead with Fury Cutter, and then Shadow for Alligator on the safe swap here, and Jellicent as the closer here. The Great League meta has really just feels like it has opened up a lot, especially since I was playing pretty actively. It's been a while since I've played this game very competitively, especially on the PvP side of things. But we're getting back into it, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been streaming again on Twitch, and I plan to make some YouTube content over the summer here. So in this video, you're going to see me utilize this team. I get a good amount of wins. I climb a good amount of elo. You can see I'm starting at rank 18 with these battles though, but when I do end up getting my rating, I'm around 2150, and then by the end of using this team, I climbed up almost to 2300 with it. So let's jump right into these battles. Let me know what teams you have been enjoying using in the Great League. Here we go. So Gligar into Claydol. This is a very favorable lead for me, but they're going to swap into the Scizor. I don't really have the best response to Shadow Scizor. It is everywhere, and it is so fast getting to its charge moves. I will go into my Shadow for Alligator here because the Bullet Punch is resisted. Trailblaze is obviously going to hit for a lot of damage, but at least I'm resisting these fast moves here. They do get to Night Slash in 5 Bullet Punches, and they would win the CMP tie here. Scizor is so glassy. Have to commit my final shield here, and then they bring out Azumarill. So at this point, I'm in an okay spot here. I do want to be able to pivot into my Jellicent. Jellicent is a very solid response to Azumarill. Now, I'm going to be honest, there have been lots of move updates and different Pokemon that are now in the meta nowadays compared to when I was playing this consistently. So I am still making tons of mistakes in my battles right now and kind of learning from it and trying to get back into the swing of things of battling. So as these games go on, you will see my gameplay get a little bit better as I get more comfortable with the team, but you will see me make a large amount of mistakes in these games here. Able to take out the Scizor there. They still have the Azumarill in the back. And they end up bringing in the Claydol. I go for an immediate snipe down with my Feraligatr here. Hydro Cannon does not one-shot that Claydol though. It is very bulky. I do get to another move here. This will be able to take out the Claydol. And that Azumarill is still in the back. We're able to win that battle with 3 Pokemon remaining. Always feels good. Gligar into Drapion. This matchup is so awkward. They get 2 Aqua Tails in 4 Poison Stings here. And as the Gligar, it's always tempting to bait this. But I have had Drapion's no shield this before. I kind of go back and forth on how I play this lead matchup here. This opponent did end up shielding the dig, which was really bad for me. But I'm just going for as much chip damage as I can get here. It'd be really nice if I could catch an Aqua Tail on one of my Pokemon in the back. The problem is Shadow Claw is resisted damage here. I was hoping that I could potentially shield once and farm down before they get to another crunch, but as you can see, they're just barely able to get to another crunch here. The nice thing with Shadow for Alligator is most of the time you will get your shields back with how much damage Shadow for Alligator is able to do, but Azumarill is something that is a very good response to the Shadow for Alligator. I have a lot of energy stored. They're up a shield, so I know I'm gonna have to do some switch clock shenanigans here to be able to pull off a win here. It's so awkward that 2 Surfs are not enough to KO this Diggersby here, and it's nearly impossible to hex down a Diggersby, double resisting that ghost type fast move damage there. But they're also running quick attack, so it's double resisted on our side as well. I know my Shadow for Alligator is going to win CMP against everything, so I'm able to save my Jellicent, go back into my Feraligatr here, snipe down the Diggersby. Out comes Azumarill. I think I'm still out of play rough range here on my Feraligatr. But this is a very healthy Azumarill that I still have to be able to get through. Able to get to another Hydro Cannon here. But the Azumarill is still very healthy and has a shield. And I just am not going to have enough energy to be able to take out this Azumarill here. I'm one hex away from being at the Shadow Ball. So very, very close game there in the end. The Drapion in the lead is awkward to deal with for sure. Okay, into Clodsire here. This is a good matchup, even though the Fury Cutters are resisted here. But the Poison Stings are resisted. And they're throwing energy, which makes me think that they're running Stone Edge. And they are. So as you can see, that does less than half damage. So they're going to need 2 Stone Edges plus a lot of Poison Sting damage if they want to be able to take me out. I'm still getting used to the pacing of Fury Cutter and the charge moves here. They do end up shielding that. So whatever they have in the back is most likely also weak to Gligar. I'm wondering if they have like a fighter, like an Annihilate. And this was a huge mistake on my part. I lost track of their energy, but I'm going to let this Stone Edge go through. Immediately go for the dig here and see what they want to do. I do win the lead, but Mandibuzz is not what you want to see. This team does struggle against Mandibuzz and Galarian Moltres, which I've actually seen way more Galarian Moltres than Mandibuzz. However, Shadow Feraligatr, I am running Ice Beam on this. It will hit for a lot of super effective damage here if they end up letting it go through. And they do. Really, really good for me. I figure I could potentially get to 2 Hydro Cannons here if I commit my final shield here. And having energy to throw on whatever is in the back is always very good. They let the Mandibuzz go down, and in the back is a Primeape. I should be able to burn this final shield with the Hydro Cannon, and then Jellicent. I need to be able to get to this Shadow Ball. Now, I can't really see if they're running Karate Chop or Counter here. It looks like Karate Chop. And if I remember correctly, it takes only 4 Karate Chops to get to a Rage Fist. That second Rage Fist would have been boosted and might have been just enough to knock out my Jellicent. So very close at the end there. Okay, a Drifblim lead. This is terrible. Gonna go into my Feraligatr here. And instead of throwing any energy with their Drifblim, they opt to mirror with their own Feraligatr. I can win switch advantage here by shielding once and then farming down, but the Drifblim up energy is going to be a big problem to deal with for my Jellicent. Out comes a Primeape. I now have seen their entire team, but I still don't really know how I'm going to handle this Drifblim. But able to get the shields burned here with these Hydro Cannons, and then I think I make an aggressive pivot into my Jellicent here. The problem here again is that these 2 Rage Fist will most likely KO me. So this was definitely a misplay on my part. I should have just allowed my Feraligatr to get farmed down and then brought in my Gligar, because Gligar is really going to struggle against the Drifblim here. I'm just going for any chip damage I can get because I know I would lose the CMP tie against that Drifblim. So the fact that they allowed me to get to Surf there is really, really good for me. This Icy Wind is going to hit for double super effective on Gligar, but I do survive, forcing them to throw this energy as quickly as possible. Now, what you saw there, me going out of the app and then coming back in, this has been a technique that I've seen on some different Twitch streams of trying to reduce one-turn lag, which if you don't know what that is, after a Pokemon faints or you bring a different Pokemon in, sometimes the game will stop for a turn and then your fast moves will be behind by 1 turn, which can be really, really annoying in a lot of scenarios. And so some people have mentioned that if you're on iPhone, you kind of back out of the app and then go back in. That can potentially help not have that happen, but I still don't really know if it's consistent or if it works that well, but okay, there is a ferret on my screen, and surprisingly, this is actually a Pokemon that does really well in this meta now. They have a Typhlosion and a Jumpluff in the back. So I do end up just going straight for the Ice Beam here, but they were up shields, so definitely a case to be made that I could have baited the Hydro Cannon. I let the Energy Ball go, hoping that they were running the double flying moveset, but that was not the case. So this is going to be really, really tough here. Bringing out the Gligar, I am hitting for neutral with my Fury Cutters and super effective with the Aerial Ace here. They let that go through, which is really good, and then they bring out their Typhlosion. Typhlosion gets to Thunder Punch in only 2 Incinerates, and it definitely wins the CMP tie, so this is very, very scary. I know that their Jumpluff is running Energy Ball as well, because they already hit me with that. But luckily my opponent makes a mistake and loses track of my energy here. They allow me to get to a Surf, knock out their Typhlosion. I do not want to allow them to farm down. I make an aggressive swap out, and I'm able to reach this Aerial Ace, which should be able to knock out their Jumpluff, and we're able to take that game. Sometimes you win games because you play well. Sometimes you win games because you capitalize on your opponent's mistakes, and I have lost so many games this season because of my own mistakes. So we have all been there. Good game. Another Ferret, shiny Ferret. This thing looks like a candy cane when it's shiny like this. But Ferret running Sucker Punch and having access to Swift and Trailblaze is like an amazing response to all of the Dusclops and Jellicents that are out there. You do obviously have to watch out for the fighters, the Annihilapes and the Primapes. You can actually see Ferret winning the one shield there, but I'm able to get an energy advantage with my Feraligatr. Out comes Claydol. This team is pretty much triple strong against Claydol. And as I was pleasantly reminded in one of my previous streams, Claydol does have access to Ice Beam, which absolutely shreds Gligar. I got one-shotted by an Ice Beam Claydol on stream a couple days ago. It was wild. Out comes Talonflame, but you only saw it for about 3 seconds there before it got nuked by a Hydro Cannon. And Shadow Feraligatr is just absolutely going to town. Able to take that game there. Good game. Gligar into an Alolan Sandslash. Are they running Powder Snow or Shadow Claw? They actually were running Shadow Claw, so I wouldn't have been hit for super effective fast move damage there. But Gligar being double weak to ice, you definitely need to pivot out. Plus I have 2 water types in the back anyways. Now I baited with a Hydro Cannon, and then I forced CMP on this second charge move here. My opponent ended up shielding both of those moves. The first one could have been an Ice Beam, but the second one was a very obvious Hydro Cannon. They either severely miscounted or they figured that all of this neutral damage on my Gligar was still going to be really effective. So they will get their shields back here. I want to shield up one of those Frenzy Plants. I will get hit by a Frenzy Plant, but I need to be overloaded with energy so I can potentially threaten that Sandslash later on. I overfarm a little bit. I need to be able to land a dig on the Sandslash. But they end up bringing in an Azumarill, so I'm going to bank a dig, swap into my Jellicent here. This Alolan Sandslash is at an awkward health range. I am going to go for the Shadow Ball, but it's not going to be enough to knock out this thing. And to be honest, I lost track of how much energy this Alolan Sandslash had, so I was very scared I was going to get hit by another Drill Run there. Out comes Azumarill, but now we are almost at half health. This is a more uncomfortable situation here, but we should be able to get to 2 Shadow Balls, no problem, and then I have all that energy banked on my Gligar, so we are looking good here. I can't remember specifically what the update was to Hex, if it does more damage or generates more energy now, but there's so many Hex users in the meta. Down goes the Azumarill, and we're able to take that game there. Good game. A Gligar mirror match. I think this is where we both... No, I just immediately go into my Feraligatr here. Again, I have 2 water types in the back, so I don't necessarily want to play out that mirror match. They respond with a Lapras. We're both hitting for neutral damage with our fast moves here. Shadow Lapras, actually. But I believe I outpace to my Hydro Cannons compared to their Sparkling Arias. I'm over farming a ton here because if that Gligar comes back in, I will have energy to threaten their shields. I win the secondary matchup here, so I now have switch advantage. Out comes Drapion. They're going to have a difficult time poison stinging me down, and I can potentially get both shields here. Barely able to get to this Hydro Cannon. This is very, very good for me. And I do end up getting both shields, but their Aqua Tail is going to be threatening to my Gligar. I really have to hope that at some point they're going to swap back into their own Gligar and I can get my Jellicent in a good situation. I do have to shield up one of these Aqua Tails. I'm scared of the catch. I anticipated them catching there, but no, they actually stayed in and threw a move. So big misplay on my part. Even though I catch an Aqua Tail, the crunch is going to be enough to knock me out. But my opponent responds and also makes a misplay. They did bank an Aqua Tail, and they will win CMP against my Gligar. But I'm trying to capitalize on this situation and pull out a win here. I overly anticipated them swapping, and this is a prime example of that not happening and really should have cost me the game there. But able to get that win still. Very scary, tricky end game there. Another Shadow Drapion in the lead. They are throwing their Aqua Tails immediately here. I can always tank one. I'm sure there will be some questions in the comments of why not Shadow Gligar, and I just don't have one. If I had a Shadow Gligar, I would probably be running it, but in some situations, having this extra bulk is kind of nice. I will shield up this Aqua Tail. Gonna go for another Aerial Ace, and honestly, if we take this to the 2 shield, this Fury Cutter damage plus the Aerial Aces puts the Drapion in a pretty manageable spot. I will shield this up, and I figured it was going to be a CMP tie on that dig, so I'm just going to chip with the Aerial Ace here. And then I tried to go for an Aqua Tail catch, assuming that they would throw immediately. No, but they held onto their energy, and then I get hit by a crunch. Really unfortunate. Lapras is going to come in and be able to farm me down. I almost wasn't able to throw my Hydro Cannon there because the game stopped registering my fast moves, which was really not great. But Jellicent absolutely walls off this energy from Lapras, which is awesome. The Psywave damage does hit for neutral, but no matter what charge move Lapras is running, it's going to be resisted damage on Jellicent. So once again, I want to get a bunch of energy here. And they still have that Drapion, but it's very low. In the back is an Annihilate. And I wanted to try to stop tapping there to throw in the middle of one of their counters, or if they were going to catch. But I've noticed that I'm unable to wait a turn. Like if I stop tapping, the game stops updating the fast moves on my opponent's side as well. And so it's just very, very scary in those scenarios. It's pretty easy for my opponents to catch moves. The only way I can really try to avoid it is if I time my move in the middle of their fast move. Talonflame lead, and I pivoted right into my Shadow Feraligatr. They did not throw energy, and they also just went into their Azumarill. I can easily win this matchup and leave this matchup with stored energy, which is going to be very impactful. If Azumarill is their hardest answer to Feraligatr, then we're going to be looking pretty nice in the back. They end up shielding. They can totally have my second shield if they want. I have energy banked. I thought they might pivot into the Talonflame, and they do, so I throw 2 Shadow Claws and then queue up my Hydro Cannon for optimal move timing. They end up shielding that. I'm going to go immediately into my Jellicent. And if they Brave Bird me, they're going to significantly drop their defense. And then at that point, it should be pretty manageable by any of my Pokemon. So down goes the Jellicent, the Talonflame able to take me out there. I'm farming up more here, and then I'm going to throw this Hydro Cannon. They still have their Azumarill that I have to deal with. Now I'm hoping that my Gligar has play against whatever they have in the back. It is a Diggersby. I thought they might try to catch, so again, I attempted to wait a turn, but then I did more fast moves there. But I don't even think their Switch Clock would have been up at that point. So we safely landed the Hydro Cannon. I discovered this on an earlier battle today, but in the Zero Shield, and I'm not sure if this is the case for all Pokemon. Here you see, I think my opponent either lagged out of the match or closed the app. If they lagged out, very unfortunate, but there was going to be no win con towards the end game there. Their Azumarill very low, and Gligar is a very solid response to the Diggersby. However, in the Zero Shield scenario, it is a little bit sketchy, especially if you see Diggersby in the lead. But that ultimately is where you want to see Diggersby with their with this team. But that Zero Shield scenario can get kind of dicey. Okay, my opponent brings out a Greninja into my Shadow Feraligatr. We are both hitting for resisted damage with our fast moves. Night Slash will hit for neutral damage here. Gonna let the first one go through, and thankfully they do not boost. Both Hydro Cannons are resisted here, obviously because of the water typing. But I do want to get this thing lower. Greninja is kind of a core breaker for this entire team here. So I need to get some shields chipped away. All the shields are down, and now this Greninja is in a way more manageable spot for me. You can see me backing out of the app again to try to reduce one turn lag. They end up pivoting out, and then they bring in their Gligar once again. I don't think Surf is enough to knock out this Gligar. It might put it pretty close here. And then gonna get hit by another move here. But it ends up just being an aerial ace, able to tank that. In the back is a Tinkaton. I'm going straight for the Shadow Ball here, and then my Gligar should be able to handle this no problem. They do still have that Greninja, so I just need to be careful of the catch. And there was the attempt, but we held on to our energy, and we would have been able to land the dig and take out the Tinkaton. Good game. Shadow Magnezone in the lead. This is where you need to see it, and this is where we need to maintain it. But they end up swapping into Jellicent. Okay, this team does not have a direct response to Jellicent. I was kind of slow on the Feraligatr response here. But you can see like one Hydro plus all that Shadow Claw damage really does a lot to the Jellicent here. I will commit one shield. I thought they were going to force the CMP tie there, so I threw here, but they ended up going for another Hex. So bad timing on my part, but I can win this secondary matchup if I want. I actually just end up letting that go down and barely able to farm down the Jellicent. What are they going to bring in here? They still have that Magnezone, which is going to be scary. They tried to catch a dig on their Shadow Magnezone. They knew that I was at 100 energy, but I held on to my energy. I still have alignment where I need it to be. And so now we're looking great. I can let all of these moves go through onto my Jellicent here. I have 100 energy, so I have 2 digs stored on my Gligar. One dig would easily be able to one-shot their Shadow Magnezone, so we're looking really nice here. They take out my Jellicent. That gives them even less farm on their Shadow Magnezone. And they correctly no-shield this first one, knowing that their only win con is if I attempt some sort of aerial ace bait there. Another Talonflame in the lead. We have 2 water types. I'm going to go immediately into my Feraligatr. And out comes a Credilli, and it's Bullet Seed Credilli. I go straight for the ice beam, and everyone is shielding up these ice beams in the beginning. It's so unfortunate. Credilli is kind of an awkward thing for this entire team. They go for Rock Tomb, and then they get even more farm. Not great. Gonna bring out the Gligar here. And these Rock Tombs are really gonna start adding up. They're dropping my attack. And it looks like this was a CMP tie. But that neutral dig with a debuffed attack did hardly anything to this Credilli. This is getting very, very uncomfortable now. I need to get rid of this thing. And just hope that my Jellicent can have some play against whatever's in the back. Out comes the Jellicent. And if they bait me here, they will be ahead on energy, but I correctly shield up the Shadow Ball. That puts us in a pretty good scenario here. I'm going straight for the Shadow Ball. I was up a shield, so if I like fail a Surf bait here, that's just providing them with a win con that doesn't need to be there. They threw Surf, and actually if I was keeping better track of energy, I would have known that was a Surf, but I got distracted. They end up catching this on their Talonflame. Really, really great play. My opponent is playing very, very well, but I'm also going to catch this move onto my Gligar. I should be able to farm them down now and then have a shadow. Oh, well, I have 100 energy now. I'm going to throw the Surf, and then I can safely get to the Shadow Ball and take this game. Talonflame in the lead. You have two water types in the back, so go for a quick pivot, mix it up, and see what happens. A Runerigus? Okay, so it took me a while to remember what moves this thing had, and I'm sitting there throwing resisted Fury Cutters while this thing has Rock Tomb. It also has Shadow Ball, so I absorb that damage, and then I go into my Feraligatr. Ferrothorn on the response is tough to deal with. And I'm actually ending up going for the Hydro Cannon. I'm baiting here. I do successfully get a shield, which is really good for me. I will shield this up. I have energy stored. It takes 4 Bullet Seeds to get to Power Whip. And I do successfully land the Ice Beam. So I'm going to shield this and see what they want to do. They bring in a Blastoise. Now, Jellicent walls off all of the charge move energy here from Blastoise, but as you can see, like the rollout damage plus 3 Hydro Cannons is enough to take out Jellicent, which is crazy to think about. Blastoise is actually fairly bulky, it feels like, in the Great League. Blastoise is a really fun pick right now with that rollout fast move. You can run Skull Bash as the secondary move, or Ice Beam if you want grass coverage. I'm barely able to get to the Shadow Ball, but they catch on their Ferrothorn. Great play. How am I going to deal with this Blastoise? They end up bringing in the Runerigus. I farm up a little bit more, and then I'm hoping that this Hydro Cannon is enough to take it out. And it is. Out comes the Blastoise again. I just need to get this Hydro Cannon damage off and then swap as fast as possible to pressure them to throw their move. But I had energy stored anyways. So able to take out this Blastoise and win the game there. Good game. Gligar into another Talonflame lead. Going to immediately go into my Feraligatr here. And they respond with a Gastrodon. Again, they don't throw energy with their Talonflame, and then they bring out something that's kind of neutral to Feraligatr. When I have an energy advantage like this, I can flip this matchup. They do commit a shield, and so I will commit a shield as well. I would like to fight for switch advantage here. And this, I believe, was the CMP tie. They let that go, and they bring out Jellicent. But at this point, I get some really nice Hydro Cannon chip. I just need to bring in my Gligar to absorb this damage from the Jellicent. And then whenever they go into their Talonflame, I just need to quickly get into my Jellicent. There it is. Able to swap. Gonna let the first move go through here. It is a fly. But I do need to start shielding. We need to keep this Jellicent alive for their own Jellicent. Throw one Hex and then queue up the Surf. And then I'm one Hex away from another Surf, which will be able to knock out the Talonflame. And then at that point, should be able to handle their Jellicent in the back. I immediately go into Gligar to pressure with this Aerial Ace. And Fury Cutter down the jelly. Thank you everyone so much for watching. If you appreciate the content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Best of luck with your battles, and I will see you in the next video.